I will say you and I, having been out of doors, I don't think we're finding an exceptional amount of enthusiasm out there. That hasn't been what I found of like, I'm so into this governor's race and I just can't decide between the two of them. I don't think many people have been saying that.
I want to talk about lawn signs, okay? A lot of like...
Preach, sister.
So it's like...
But we have structural problems. The systems that existed to give me opportunities are broken. They're not working for people anymore.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creemee.
Vermont, politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to There's No A in Creemee. We're recording a little earlier than usual today.
Yeah. You usually ask me how I'm doing, and it's a little too soon to tell. So I didn't know how I was going to answer that question.
Yeah, it's early. I mean, it's not like so early, but it feels early to be recording.
I got to help my neighbors in a dog chase. Their dog got loose this morning, and she's a hound, and she was on the scent. She was going after that rabbit that my dogs have been totally incompetent at getting.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. But they're up from D.C. They live down there, and they were wearing Washington Nationals Walgreens hats that you hate.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I don't like it because the logo for the Nationals looks exactly like the logo for Walgreens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're like sponsored by Walgreens
Right.
or if that was an oversight. It really bothers me.
Well, the dog kept running away from them, and I thought it's probably the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was. That's 2 rescues in 2 days for you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. I participated in a park rescue yesterday.
Yeah.
A child that was too big to get in the baby swing got in the baby swing and got pretty wedged in.
Really?
Yeah.
You're like the Vermont superhero right now.
Apparently.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I'm not even trying.
So true. Yeah. All right. So we've had another eventful week on the trail, both with our campaign and in the campaign and political ecosystem, getting close to the primary.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where a week begins and a week ends, but I guess this podcast is staying on schedule.
Yeah.
This is our marker for when time is passing.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's good to have that. It's like the campaign reminds me a little bit of like, did you ever see the line in Downton Abbey when the Dowager Countess says, "What is a weekend?" Because it's like every day is a weekend day for her. She has no concept.
I think I only made it like 2 episodes into that show.
But it's like, it's
Too
the
British.
opposite problem for us. Like, we're just working every day.
I've lost track of what a day.
Yeah.
Like weekends, weekdays, they make no difference. I'm blurring day job, campaign, construction stuff. It's happening whenever it happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's real. We passed the 3,000 doors mark. That was pretty exciting.
You did.
I did. Yeah. We were there for a fair amount.
I have been there for a lot of them, but you have been there for every single one of them.
Yeah, they're all me. They're not volunteers. I mean, we have volunteers doing stuff, but not that. Yeah. It's funny because I've really been leaning into doors and to me, that's the work, is knowing what the voters need. And the only way to do that is to go to them and to talk to them. I feel like I'm like a human Gallup poll for the district now because I've literally talked to so many people. I also know everything about doorbells and stoops and like what kind of molding you can easily slide a mailer into. Like, this is like so niche, but it's like you would only know it if you were on a million.
Nobody cares but us, so it's a good thing we're not recording this and putting it out on the internet.
Well, it's the reason, I guess. Okay, so this, to me, there's like different kinds of campaigning, and that's like part of this podcast, right? Is like the work of politics in Vermont. And to me, it's really important that the voters are represented first and foremost. But there's another, so I get like a candidate survey, like pretty much literally every day from a different organization. And, when I set out in the beginning of this campaign, I was like, I'm going to do all the surveys. And then I missed one by accident, and I was very sad about that. And then,
just to clarify though, these are surveys to candidates about your positions, not surveys about candidates that you'd vote for. A lot of us get in our, yes.
Oh, good point.
This
yeah.
Okay. A unique experience if you run for office. It's like reverse polling.
Yeah. So lobbies and like interest groups send candidates surveys, and they're often very long. and not always, but often. And then they don't really do anything necessarily. Like, I just talked to a member of one of the biggest unions in the state, and, I did their survey, and they said they only shared it with the board, that the members of the organization weren't actually allowed to see it. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I spent like 3 hours on that. And so, it's just been so candidates get these questionnaires from interest groups like every single day. And it's like a huge time suck. And, at first I was like, oh, I'm going to do every single one. And it's like it's like this tiny constituency versus actually connecting with like my voters. And like, that's the constituency I want to be connecting with. And so I've really leaned away from it. We've tried to get a few of the heavy hitters that we think will really be impactful and mean something to us. But yeah, what I want to do, I want to get to the point here, sorry. So what I really would love to send a survey to all the interest groups sending me surveys and ask them why this is important, how many people in the district they're going to be sharing it with, like what are they doing, why should I be responding to their survey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. We don't want to call it any names, but there's some groups out there. They're really small. You've never heard of.
Yeah. They're so niche.
They're
so
really
niche. I mean, some of them, it almost seems like a Saturday Night Live satire.
It's the same questions over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why we haven't gotten one from like Vermont Public or Digger. Like, often the bigger races get that. And I feel like if like a bigger, like, objective organization could do like a broad brush survey, then like just cover the breadth and depth one time. I feel like you had that maybe they only do that in the general election. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't remember getting this many. And then I got to a point where I realized that everybody who wanted to endorse me had already decided before they pitched me the survey.
Oh, yes. I love when I get the survey after they've done the endorsements.
After they've done the endorsements, right? And I could just let deadlines go. They would come to me and say, Andy, you didn't fill this out. Would you like to fill this out? And that meant, we wanted to endorse you all along. Just fill this out and we'll endorse you.
It's like kind of a bunch of nonsense. And it's like, I don't mean to like slag off like these organizations that like want to connect with candidates, but it's not a good system. And it's actively pulling candidates away from the voters or giving them the impression that that's the good way to campaign.
Well, and I think there's a lot of good intention behind the number of surveys. I think there's a lot of good intention behind, we've seen an explosion, particularly lieutenant governor and governor, the amazing amount of forums that these candidates have had to go through. Oh, yeah,
but it's way too many.
Way too many. They're too small. They're not bringing in much of an audience. And they're all forums, not debates. They're all kind of asking the same question. And they're all over the state. All over the state. And these are people with, children and families and trying to spend as much time with them and maintain those relationships while they get out there and campaign. Yeah. And it's all well-intentioned. Like, everybody's trying to do what they can to bolster democracy, but I think we do need a little coordination. Like, we went too far in that direction. Like, when 20 people are showing up to a forum and they're having to drive 2 hours to get to it, and then the next night they're across the other side of the state, and then the next night they're back where they were in the same town over in the Northeast Kingdom for another 12 or 15 people in the audience. It really needs to be some coordination to make those events and those forums and those debates bigger deals and promote them big so we get a bigger audience, but not have a million tiny ones.
Yeah. I mean, well, during the primary, that's the job of the party. Like, I know in my race, like, county Democrats had no idea that all these other little tiny forums were happening. Like, that's problematic. And, for the statewide races, the state party should be sort of brokering those.
Good point. Yes, the town parties are, and why it's so fractured is all the town parties are stepping up to do this, and good on them for doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, some coordination from up high to prevent duplication and low turnout. I mean, it's great for them to do all this organization and planning and bring these candidates out, but when the turnout is low, that's not really a success for the town party either. Yeah,
and as we've seen, the smaller ones are often not well managed. Yep. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think it's sort of a symptom of the, disintegration of the state party.
And democracy.
And democracy.
Civilization.
Yeah.
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 But the Creemees are still good.
The Creemees are still good. It's funny, before we were on the air, I was just saying that Jon Stewart used to say when he was preparing for the show that he would drink his morning cup of sadness, and that was consuming the news and then figuring out how to process it. And I definitely feel like we're in that space right now. It's just like it's so much, and so much of it is so troubling.
Yeah, he's a fellow Mets fan, so he has that experience of trying to pick yourself up off the mat 162 times a year.
Yeah, a lot of the late night comedians are. Seth Meyers is, and John Oliver too.
For a while there, I had a theory that you had to be a comedian to be a Mets fan. Like there's just like Jim Brewer, Amy Schumer, they're all Mets fans. Yeah. Chris Rock.
Yeah. Well, it's like being Jewish. You have to like turn the suffering into something.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld is really, really doubling up on this whole situation with the Mets and being Jewish.
Oy vey.
Jon Stewart too, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a new chapter in the UNH poll. New UNH poll came out.
Yep. Little update. Not hugely different than the last one. Still a lot of undecideds. And I think that's probably the main takeaway here. I mean, Phil Scott dropped a couple more points in his popularity. Amanda's lead got a little bit bigger over Allie, but still, it's just so many undecideds out there. And Ryan McLaren and Esther Charleston flopped in the lieutenant governor. Ryan's now slightly ahead of Esther. So a little change there. But I mean, I think the main story is that so many undecideds. Turnout so far has been very low. We had a really good turnout in 2022 for the primary with Becca Balint and Molly Gray being on the ballot for U.S. House. Mm-hmm. And then 24 was just abysmal. Mm-hmm. And, we've all been trying to nerd out on the numbers and figure out like what's 26 going to look like. And the thinking it was be closer to 22 because you've got a governor's race, you've got lieutenant governors, you've got a lot of contested primaries at the House and Senate levels, but it's been pretty low so far. And engagement just doesn't seem to be high in this election for some reason.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, turnout's been low, and I think that we all expected there to be like energy for change, and we have seen that on the campaign trail, actually. Yep. But it is not bearing out in the turnout yet. I don't know if remote voting, is less popular now that like people can come out in real life. I don't know.
That could be, and that we're moving away from early and mail voting as we get further and further from COVID. Could also be people are just going to wait as long as possible because they do have so many contested races. Let's see if something breaks one way or another, or give me the most time to find out which candidate I most support. But I will say, you and I, having been out of doors, I don't think we're finding an exceptional amount of enthusiasm out there. That hasn't been what I've found of like, I'm so into this governor's race and I just can't decide between the two of them. I don't think many people have been saying that.
Yeah, there is like we had a door yesterday that really, sticks in my mind about that. There is just a kind of resignation in the electorate right now. That is like they've been so beat down that they just don't believe change is possible. And that is so sad. And like it just goes to show how much we've lost trust with the voters and the electorate as political leaders, and that like we really need to win that back.
Yeah. And the other theme from that poll was that Governor Scott's popularity is a tick lower, but it just also shows that the first was not a fluke. He really is slipping, and I didn't see anything that really dug into. I mean, they did ask some issues here. I guess it's unclear. We were in an election in 24, and the thinking was that Trump would just poison everything down below. And what we found was that was not the case at all. People were separating local elections from national elections, and the Democrat-Republican split in Vermont was viewed very differently than the Democrat-Republican split nationally. John Rogers is also looking very beatable, and almost everybody in the lieutenant governor's race on the Democratic side can beat him in a head-to-head. That he seems to have weakened considerably. And is this wall finally breaking and the national politics is seeping into the Republican agenda? Or, did the Republicans just overpromise and underdeliver? They said they could come in, they could corporatize the education system, make it cheap, make it efficient. And they didn't deliver on that.
Yeah, it could be. It's really hard to say. I will say, so we've been on doors since March. And so in my door-to-door tracking poll of the electorate in my district, in the beginning, people were saying now and then, oh, I voted for the governor. I like him. He brings balance. We used to hear that a little bit. I have not heard that in at least a month, I don't think.
That's a good point, because I heard that a lot in 24.
Yeah.
And when I've been with you, nobody's really bringing that up.
Yeah.
I mean, affordability has been the rallying cry of this governor for 10 years. And it's the number one concern that we hear out there on doors. So it's clearly not, he hasn't gotten there in 10 years. People are more concerned about that than ever.
Speaking of affordability and doors,
would be a great segment if we had a sponsor that was selling doors.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, but we don't.
We don't
No.
yet. If you're a door vendor, call us. Actually, we should give a shout out to Phoenix that they just re-upped their sponsorship.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, thank you, Phoenix Books. I was just canvassing with a friend of mine in Burlington, and she's been a friend for many years, and she's completely brilliant. And we were going door to door in her neighborhood, and it's like I love doing doors with like a friend who lives in the neighborhood, because I feel like so impressed with my friends and how beloved they are in their communities. It's like very heartwarming and beautiful to see. And like, every door we went to, they were like, oh, of course, you're with so-and-so. And I was like, I'm always like, well, do you want to hear my platform? It's like a funny thing. But anyway, she was saying, she was talking about some candidates in the field. I don't want to name names because it's just kind of mean, but she said something that really has stuck with me, and I mentioned in last week's Substack. She had some concerns about some candidates, and she's been saying this for years, actually, that she feels like it's important for a candidate to know what it's like to be broke. And she was like, we're talking about someone, and she's like, they don't know what it's like to be broke. And that has really been sitting with me. And I was kind of reflecting back on times in my life when, we've really been lean, and how that is incredibly character building and important and empathy building. And it is really important. It is like a really specific kind of like fear and motivation. And I just think a lot about, the segment we did last week talking about how some folks have really lost touch. And I don't think you lose touch quite as easily if you've been through that, because you just know. And I don't know. I just love that. And I almost think that should be like one of these like questions and in the debates, like, have you been broke? Like, what's your experience been like, with making your life work and making your finances work? And I'm not saying that people, born into means shouldn't be allowed to run, but, the financial disclosures are not enough transparency there. Like, if we're really talking about someone's character and their ability to relate to, I don't know, what everyone likes to say, like everyday Vermonters, like working Vermonters who aren't, born into a ton of means, like it's just important to know where they land. I want to take this moment in time to talk about the difference between like blogs and journalism.
And podcasts too, maybe, or in that.
Yeah, podcasts are so like a blog, or like, and we have several outlets in Vermont that like sort of they make themselves look like journalists, but they don't fact check, they don't stick to, journalistic integrity, they don't make sure, they don't follow all these.
They don't get both sides. They just
don't get both sides.
Yeah,
it's just commentary.
And a lot of times they'll use styling on the website that makes it look like a news type of website.
Yeah. And people will refer to like as an article, but it's not an article. It's like just a post.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's the same technically with a podcast.
Yep.
Like, and I think like I want to own that for sure. Like, that stuff isn't, it's funny. Someone a few months ago, like, said something that offended journalistic integrity that I didn't know that I had. But I mean, the journalists who are out there like reporting, whether it's 7 Days or the Wilson Observer or Shelburne News or Digger or Vermont Public, like they have like a whole system in place to work hard to make sure that they are getting an accurate story, a fact-checked, balanced story. And a lot of these smaller outlets that people are like relying on for their quote unquote news are not. And I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, even with us, you know, like we do what we can, but we're not held to any particular standard except for our own.
Yeah, and I mean, we've gotten some criticism on for not being journalistic enough with some of our interviews as well, and it was well-meaning, but we're not even trying. Like, we're sitting down and having conversation with people, trying to give a flavor of who they are as people.
Yeah,
and we're not going to press them or push them on certain issues because we're not qualified to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, when we had Allison Novak on the show, like, she's a real journalist for 7 days, she's an extraordinary journalist. And, you know, that to me was, I was so excited to have her on because I was like, we have a real journalist on the show this week, you know, and I would encourage folks to check out that episode, by the way, especially if you're interested in education policy. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to name check that, especially as we're so close to the election and there's a lot of content going around that's just that. It's like, it's content. It's sort of like, you know, and some of it was about me. I'll own that too. And I really didn't enjoy that. And I just kind of felt like, wow, this guy didn't even call me for comment. This person didn't even read my statement, you know, like just kind of like saying whatever. And there's no accountability. They can just say whatever.
That's the point.
Yeah.
They have an agenda.
Yeah.
And they're working backwards
to
get to their agenda. Yeah. I mean, the governor actually just put out a press release calling on Vermonters to support our local journalists.
Yes.
It was kind of surprising, but we had just happened to have laid down a lot of money to support local journalism through your campaign, through ads, through local newspapers that do have professional journalists who have guidelines and procedures and certain ways that they go about achieving balance and trying to educate the public.
Yeah.
Rather than persuade.
That felt to me like money well spent. I mean, I honestly wish we had a bigger budget to do more of it because I really believe in local journalism. And I mean, so I know for a fact that initiative by the governor was actually an effort that was started by 7 Days and some other local outlets. And there was like a bill in the works that was getting stalled out for a while. And then boom, he just did it, which is great. It's like sort of an example of how he governs too. And that like sort of scuttles the legislative process and then just boom, does something. And that makes everyone feel frustrated. But yay, supporting local journalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
I also like when the legislature appropriates money for grants and then the governor gets to announce them. Like, that's just. It's good to be the governor because you get to show up with the big check and get the press release and say, governor announces $20 million in funding, and the legislature has spent 4 months sweating away finding money to appropriate to those sources. But yeah, win the governor's office. It's a good place to be.
Oh my God, that's so real. Okay, one other thing I wanted to hit before we set up the interview. I want to talk about lawn signs, okay? A lot of, like...
Preach. Sister.
So it's like, I just feel like lawn signs... It's funny because I have a few friends who really don't like lawn signs, and, like, I get it. Like, we worked hard on my campaign to make lawn signs that were pretty so that, like, people wouldn't feel like they had this, like, garish sign, like, on their lawn, and that was important to me. But... There's equity issues around lawn signs that I feel like I kind of want people who are interested in politics to understand a little of the nuance. First of all, they cost money. Like, they're not free. And so it's part of a campaign budget, how many you can put out. But there's all these like nuances to it too that I think a lot of people don't know. And so for people who are into like the sport of politic, I think it's just kind of interesting. So there's an issue going on in Burlington right now, some complaints like going around because some candidates who are friendly with landlords have been having landlords put their lawn signs up at their rentals. Mm. So you're a renter and your landlord drops off a lawn sign in your yard and you don't necessarily support the person who's being advertised right in front of your house. And I had to say that hit me like, oh, that wouldn't feel good.
No.
If I was a renter, and I have been a renter for many years, and, if someone like dropped a Trump sign in my yard, I would not feel okay with that. And it's like, it kind of gets into like free speech territory, and I don't know.
Especially as less and less people can afford homes and more people are renting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, now the homeowners associations tend to not allow them in condos and stuff, as well as mobile home parks. So if you live in a mobile home park, you have no ability to express, you can't put a lawn sign out
Yeah, we've been hitting that a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of folks in condos and smaller units who say like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to put up a sign, but we're not allowed." So that's also an equity issue, right? So if your base is lower income, they're less likely to display your signs. Yeah. And I always think there's a little like streak of that working in reverse, because if you live on like a main artery, that may be a less desirable place to have a home. So, but it's really, really good visibility, right? So there's a little bit of like, oh, like if you have a friend who lives right on Route 7 and puts a sign out for you, that may not be the best living situation for them, but it's a good sign situation for you.
Yeah, and if you live way out in the country, agriculture owns or gets big discounts on taxes for a lot of the land along major roads. And if you get one or two farmers on your side, there can be 900 signs out there.
Yeah. You have that a lot in the islands.
Yes,
yeah.
for one or two landowners.
Yeah, I haven't seen that much in my race yet.
No, I bet you haven't in Burlington and South Burlington as much, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could say we have a lot of agriculture out in like
You do.
Charlotte and Heinsberg and Underhill.
Yeah.
Don't slag off my district.
No, I'm sorry. Your district is very rural too. It's big. But yeah, definitely Addison, Grand Isle, Franklin County.
There were just rows of them.
Rows of them. It's been sad to watch, but the farms have been bought up by bigger corporations. Like most of the family farms that I grew up with are gone. They've sold. I mean, they're still there, but they are now employees of a larger corporation. So it's getting consolidated into fewer and fewer hands. And if they support a certain candidate, they can put out a lot of signs by asking one person.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's true. When I was working for the Agency of Agriculture, I did a lot of the data management because I was a GIS person. And one of my jobs there was to maintain the data inventory of all the dairy farms in Vermont. And I was there for 3 years. And every year the number was getting smaller and smaller because they were consolidating into bigger and bigger companies and entities. And we were losing those family farms. And that's a really interesting way that it's manifesting that. Yeah, I just feel like you could do a dissertation on like lawn signs and equity. And I don't know. I feel like there's so much there.
Yes. And then you could do a nice little segment on which lawn signs we like, which ones are unreadable, which ones we don't like.
Oh, my God.
But I know they've got this covered on Morning Drive. They do.
Yes, I know. Kurt is super into this stuff.
Is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, there used to be, I was telling you the other day, so I'm not on Twitter anymore, but there used to be a Twitter handle that was like I think it was Lawn Sign Rater, and they would rate the different lawn signs in the fields, and it might still be there. I don't really know, but I know that when I ran Chris Winter's campaign, they got give us a positive shout out for our lawn sign.
You got a positive. Would they go, were they honest reviews, or is it like we rate dogs where every dog is the best?
No, I don't know. I think they would go negative because it was a spoof of did you ever see Rate My Zoom Room or Rate My Skype Room?
No, but people used to do Rate My Setup all the time in the programming world. It's so obnoxious.
That is obnoxious.
Yeah.
Well, there was a really popular Twitter handle. I think this was like pandemic era, and this handle would like rate people's like Zoom setup on interviews and stuff. And actually my friend Cindy Miller, who's like a completely brilliant like anti-hate scientist, like she's always on like MSNBC and stuff, and she always got like really positive shout outs for like her bird pillow behind her, and like it was just like this weird niche thing that I was obsessed with. Yeah, I miss Lawn Sign Rater. That was good stuff. They should have like a Instagram. Maybe they do and I haven't seen it. I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, we could have done some research before we went on the air, but we didn't.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Instead, we just kind of
winged
it.
We're not journalists.
Right.
Apparently not English fluid speakers either. Wunged. That one's a debate, right?
Yeah, we're just two peeps with some microphones. Okay, so this week, we're continuing our rebroadcast series of the top races right before the primary. You're going to hear our interview with Ryan McLaren, who is running for lieutenant governor. Ryan is a longtime party fixture. He worked for Peter Welch, and he's one of the members of the Democratic Party's National Committee. He's one of the 2 state reps to that. So very entrenched for a long time in the political scene. And he sat down with us to tell us why he's running.
He did.
All right.
Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creemee. Ryan McLaren, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here today.
Yeah.
Start with a really basic but important question.
Yeah.
You're running for lieutenant governor.
I'm running for lieutenant governor.
What's your motivation to do that?
My motivation in all of my public service, honestly, is my parents. My parents, they didn't have the chance to go to college, but they are two of the smartest people I know. I'm incredibly proud of them because they raised 3 kids in a 900 square foot house in Essex that they bought and committed to because we had the best public schools in the country practically when I was growing up. And they worked really hard and scraped by to give us a life, to give us opportunities that they didn't have, namely to go to college. And they did it. They had a bunch of help. I grew up on WIC. I grew up on Dr. Dinosaur. Like, the systems around us helped create the life that I have now. And they were a success. They watched their 3 kids walk across a graduation stage from college because that's what they wanted to do. And what's motivating me right now is that opportunity for a kid like me today is basically impossible. My parents aren't buying a house in Essex today with their background, with their job opportunities. Do they have the same sense of confidence that if they send their kid to a public school, they're going to get the education they deserve to prepare them for a future and give them opportunities? Or, will they be bankrupted by a medical expense that comes up because healthcare costs have skyrocketed? And so I am running. I'm a Democrat because of my parents, because of that infrastructure that made my life possible. And that opportunity is crumbling all over Vermont. And so I feel a real sense of urgency to change the story, to make this place more livable, more affordable, better for kids like me who have so much potential, I think, and just need a fair shot.
Yeah. So why lieutenant governor?
That's a great question. A lot of people think it doesn't come with a bunch of institutional power. You don't get to vote on bills. I don't get to write or propose legislation necessarily. The job is to break a tie, which has a lot of value, and to have a heartbeat if something ever happened to the governor, and to be ready to step in, which I think I am. I think I'm the most experienced person in this race, period. But the opportunity in this job for me is it's a platform to raise the voices of people like my parents who are struggling right now. And the last 10 years of my life, I've spent working for Senator Peter Welch, and my job has been to go around Vermont and talk to Vermonters about what is happening in their life today and how we can be helpful, and to build trust that a little piece of their life will be reflected in the work that Peter does down in D.C. And that's the opportunity in this job for me, where we have lost a lot of trust in our ability to solve problems, our ability to take action, our party's commitment to working people or connection to working people. And this job, the lieutenant governor's job, has been underutilized for a while. It's been a placeholder or a stepping stone or a consolation prize, and we can do better. It can be a productive job if we put someone in it who can and will do the work, and I can and will do the work.
I love that you name-checked your experience with some of the programs that we have to support our populations. I just feel like that's one of the things that Vermont does really well is look out for each other and have that infrastructure. And I don't know, I love that you named that.
We do it well, and it's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
That's what's so troubling. Yeah. It's not because we're not committed to those programs, but we have structural problems. The systems that existed to give me opportunities are broken. They're not working for people anymore. The cost of education's rising. The cost of healthcare is rising. It's impossible to find a house. And so we need to change the systems. And the only way to do that is to have a new voice in our conversation. And I think I can be that. I think I have seen from the inside and the outside what the systems are doing. And I can be a fresh face in this political conversation that isn't burdened by a past. It's like we can close the book and look to the future, put down some of our sacred cows, and just try and solve problems.
Yeah. So you've been doing one of my favorite things in the world, campaigning.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm curious.
Currently? You mean like, as a candidate?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like campaigning, like getting to interact with the voters.
Yeah.
And so I think we're really curious. What are you hearing from voters?
It's too expensive to live here.
Yeah.
And like in a way that is both terrifying and like refreshing, because I've been feeling this way for a while. And we as a party have done a bad job addressing those concerns for people. And that's reflected in our electoral results, frankly, nationally, but also here in Vermont. And, you know, I think what got me into the race now was over the last year, but also like over the last 3 or 4 years, I have felt this creeping sense of nihilism, cynicism, hopelessness. Like communities across Vermont, not just communities and families feel stuck. And it feels like we're all clinging to something. And whether for every person, that's a different thing, you know, but it's something from the past you're afraid you might lose, or some sense of the future like you're holding on to. And I just don't think that's a good way to live. That clinging has led to a slow deterioration of the Vermont that I grew up in, and the sense of life and community that is possible in this place, this like beautiful, unique place. And so my opponent in this race really is cynicism. It's that sense of cynicism and hopelessness, because I don't feel that way. But what I know is we can't be clinging on in like desperation. Like we got to let go and build the future we want, because we're not going to do it just by hanging on to the past. And so people are into that. When I talk to people, they're excited about what that could be, and they're ready to try something new. Because it's bad out there. It's like the risk of doing nothing is really, really high for people all over Vermont. Like we are on the verge of being a theme park where you can do really well and have a great life if you have means here, or you're coming to visit or recreate or relax or whatever. That's great. And then there's this underclass that is here to serve the people doing that, but nothing in the middle. If you just want to live a life, have a job, and raise a family, this won't be the place for you. And that's terrifying to me. So I hear a lot of that. But people are looking for change and hope. And I want to help do some of that. And for better or worse, the circumstances of my life like have given me the ability to just kind of keep pushing through, you know, with some understanding that when shit gets hard, like we'll still make it. And it's hard right now, but if we keep doing the work, like we'll make it.
Yeah. So the lieutenant governor position can be a little awkward in that way. You are a heartbeat away from the governorship. You preside over the Senate, but you don't have direct role over policy. How do you interpret that role, and what do you bring to that role to be able to address those issues through the lieutenant governorship?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, there's not a lot of institutional power. The power in it is soft power. It's relational, it's networking, it's knowing who to go to and how to get things done. And that's been my job. Like my job for Peter Welch has been to connect people here in Vermont to Peter, to programs, to the federal government in ways to like make their lives better or solve problems for them. So it's like connecting a farmer with USDA to help get drought relief, or pushing back on federal agencies to prevent them from closing cheesemakers over like onerous regulatory rules designed to help craft cheese.
Right.
It's like our job has been to connect constituents and stakeholders with people who can give them solutions or just an answer and to help them move forward. And that's this role. This role has soft power where it's like, do you know who to talk to? Do you know how to solve a problem? And can you be a connector in the room and an advocate for people to help move the ball forward? Because Peter Welch does all the work in that office. That's his name's on the door. He is the power there. My job has been to facilitate our ability to help Vermonters. And I think I've been really good at it. I've been able to work with a lot of people all over the state that are supporting my campaign and can speak to that. But I think that's the role here.
So we talked a little about the LG's role, and I guess I'm curious. It's a really interesting relationship with the Senate.
Yeah.
And we just saw John Rogers make a decisive vote about these judicial appointments, and I was curious if you'd like to comment on that and, what you would do in that position.
Well, the vote matters, obviously. It's like the first time in I don't know how many years that we've had to break a tie.
Yeah.
And frankly, the failure happened long before that vote, where we lost a bunch of power in the state house as Democrats by failing, but in the last election cycle, because we have failed to address affordability concerns for Vermonters. And so I'm sitting next to a guy who bore the brunt of that failure, who really did. And so, he's in that chamber, and we're not having this conversation. So it's really easy to say, the problem happened before this, where we wouldn't even be having the conversation. So my goal is to fix our politics and build trust with working people. And then we won't be in this situation where our governor gets lifetime appointments for partisans.
Right.
I don't think either of them were qualified. We're not even talking about the other person. Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't happen. But that is a political failure on our part as Democrats in a lot of ways.
So you're saying that we really need to build back the majority. And in order to do that, we have to build back
We shouldn't have tie votes.
Yeah, yeah.
And we should have sustained majorities. And the only way to do that is to build broad coalitions of voters that trust us. And we obviously haven't done that over the last few years. Yeah. And we have to.
You grew up here and I grew up here. I was a few miles down the road from you, and you were a few years less time on this earth than me. But I mean, I've witnessed a lot of changes in Vermont, and I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
What have you seen change that's been positive, and what have you seen change that maybe has taken us in the wrong direction in your lifetime?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so much has changed that's been positive. I spent 15 years coaching lacrosse at Burlington High School, and I loved it. And the first time I stepped foot in the cafeteria at Burlington High School to meet some of my lacrosse players, it was eye-opening. That cafeteria did not look like my cafeteria growing up in Essex or in Chittenden County.
And you mean the old BHS,
old BHS,
not Macy's?
yes,
Yeah. My kid goes to school in Macy's, so I wasn't sure.
Yes, the old BHS. And I remember in third or fourth grade, I was just texting back and forth with a classmate of mine who was a refugee from Bosnia. Mm. And that first experience of them coming to our classroom and having the Bosnian word and the English word for everything, next to each other, and how formative that was, and how lucky I was to sort of be introduced to that at such an early age when you're kids and the world hasn't set your biases and you just can be open to it. And so that's changed. We're more diverse. There's more immigration, and that's all really exceptionally positive and really important for our future and workforce development and all the things. Growing our population, it's all good. What's changed for the negative, and I tell this story a lot, but my grandparents on my dad's side are from Barnet, a small town like 10 miles south of St. Johnsbury. And I spent my summers there on Harvey's Lake and at their house, and they lived in Barnet Center, and there's 5 villages in Barnet. Every village had a general store and a church, and they were full of people. And not only were they full of people, but like my grandparents were older, but they could walk around, and their neighbors had kids, and there's people in the street, and it was a community that had life. The fabric that weaves it all together was still intact. And I went back there after the 2024 floods because the bridge, like 10 houses down from my grandparents' house, washed out. And the community was different. It had been hollowed out over the 30 years from my childhood to now. And the flood was not the cause. It was like the nail in the coffin. And that's changed for the negative. We've seen these rural communities, small towns, be hollowed out by a lot of things. Economic drivers, like 30 years of an economic system that's designed to pull wealth out of rural communities and literally just like stuff it in the pockets of 6 people. And that's a tragedy for me. It's really sad. It was really sad to be back there. And I don't want to go back to like not the 1990 version of Barnet. Like that can never happen. Right. But what we can do is like rebuild the fabric of communities and give people the like economic opportunities in places like Barnet to have that sense of life again, that feeling. It's like a feeling. It's not, you can see it. You will go into a town and it's like, oh, like it's in rough shape, or, something's going on here that is keeping it alive and like thriving. And the other thing I think we've lost in that is the sense that it can get better. Or it's like some of those communities have lost faith that if like they work hard and they plug away, like it can be better. And that we have to change that. Give them something to have faith in.
We did an episode in our first season where we asked people, what is a real Vermonter? And we all our friends wrote in different answers, and we kind of fleshed that out a little bit. Yeah. And it was a really fun episode. And I noticed that in some of your campaign content, you use the term, I was made in Vermont. Yeah. And I wanted to hear a little about what informs that. Sure. And, as a Vermonter, you're sitting with a Vermonter by choice and a made in Vermonter. Yeah. And I'm curious, what does that mean to you, and how does that impact your choice to run for office?
Yeah. I mean, it's an attitude more than anything. It's a feeling where it's I think a lot about my grandfather, who is this was a classic Republican, New England Republican, kind of conservative, but also a bit libertarian, mind your business. But he was integral to this community. They had this little community. They were good neighbors. They didn't talk about politics, and it's didn't matter. And so there's a sense of openness and honesty, and hard work and generosity that I think we have as Vermonters. That we know what matters. And we care about what matters, and that's the attitude where it's you can be made in Vermont and not be born here. And it's who you are as a Vermonter. It's I just feel like a Vermonter, and anyone can feel that way because we have our own vibe. But my grandfather, when Karma Choling, the Buddhist retreat in Barnet, was looking for a place to land, he helped them find a property and build their Buddhist retreat, even though that wasn't his world. He was not going there to meditate once they moved in, but he was open to having good neighbors who shared his values and wanted to be a part of the community. So it's this real sense of community and generosity and openness that I think makes us Vermonters. Whether or not you're born here is irrelevant. It's do you want to be part of this collective effort we're doing.
So we are both campaign managers by trade over the past few years. And it's always fun for me to talk with someone else who's run campaigns. And I'm totally curious if you'd share with us a little about what's the switch like? You know, you've fought for someone else for so long, right? And it's like, I feel like being a campaign manager is the best job in the world. I've loved it. And I'm totally curious to hear from you. You know, what's it been like being, it's my name on the ballot now. It's my name that I'm fighting for. How has that felt? What's that been like?
Well, it's fun. I love campaigns because it's an expression of democracy that our job is to talk to people. And that part's exciting to me and interesting. And I'm curious about what other people think and what their lives are like and how politics can play a role in that. And we often, I think in politics, ask people to make their lives about politics when the opposite should be the case. Like, we need to make our politics about people's lives. So, like, the job is to go talk to people and understand what they're living through. And that part I love and isn't any different whether you're a candidate or a campaign manager. But to any candidate I ever worked with, I feel like I owe them an apology. Because it's really easy to be like, the right thing to do is this thing, so, like, go do it.
Yeah.
But when you have to go do it and it's like you out front, it's harder. Yeah. It's harder. I feel just a bit more exposed, a little bit pricklier, you know?
I like where this is going. Yeah.
It's more sensitive. It's harder to do when it's you. And so I'm sorry if I ever gave you flippant advice about what the obvious thing to do is to just go do this thing. It's like, well, okay, but you're not the one getting rejected at the end if it doesn't work out.
Right.
And so that part's been different. Yeah. But like, good for me, frankly.
Yeah, good.
Because I love campaigning as well, and working on dozens, hundreds of campaigns is just like something I would do anyways. But you know, hard things are hard, but the best things in life are hard. And so, like, there's this, I feel it's forcing me to be a better version of me in the world, and to confront my own insecurities, or, you know, and I think that's always good. It's always good. You, like, put yourself out there, and I'm getting stronger and better, I think, at both being a candidate and also just, like, trying to be myself. The best version of myself, the fullest, clearest, most me version of me. This is another hurdle to get over. So I'm enjoying it.
That's awesome.
Well, we've talked about the heartbeat issue a couple of times. If you're lieutenant governor, you could find yourself as governor very quickly. In that scenario, how would you position Vermont under the Trump administration? Are we navigating it correctly, or would you take a different approach?
It's really, I think, a case-by-case scenario. But on the whole, I think we have been a bit naive in the outcomes of appeasement. Like, there is no grace in this administration for little old Vermont. It's not coming. We cannot curry favor with this man. And so we have to face that head on. That doesn't mean everything a governor needs to do to run our state well is to be talking about the person in the White House. I don't think that's true, actually. But it does mean being clear-eyed about what's in the best interest of Vermonters, because it will almost never be what this administration is asking us to do. And there's no upside to doing what they ask us to do. Like there's this mafia boss arrangement with this guy where it's like, you do what I say, it might be good. And that's just hasn't played out all that well from my experience. Like, there's account after account after account that we've been watching, was watching in my job in Senator Welch's office. And like, there's a lot of hope and prayer that if we just like fly under the radar, it's going to work out to our favor. And it just doesn't. It doesn't. You know, we fought hard, really hard to get a disaster supplemental appropriations package after the flooding in 2023 for Vermont, for farmers in Vermont in particular, because if you're a farmer in Vermont, the USDA's crop insurance programs don't work.
Right.
There are very few people like doing commodity size carrots in Vermont. And so unless you're doing that, crop insurance is like pennies on the dollar. And so Peter worked his butt off to get that done, and it happened. And then we handed it to the Trump administration, and it has not shown up. And, you know, there's ways in which that process is ongoing. And you could assume they're acting in good faith and they're just trying to cross their T's and dot their I's. That I don't believe that. I do not believe that. And so, you know, it's just an example of how I think the time for assuming they're acting in good faith has long gone. You know, there's no reason to fight just to fight, but like we have to be like clear-eyed about the consequences of what this administration's doing, and they're just stealing money from us. Luckily, we have Charity Clark who's suing them left and right, and that process is slow. Like, people are fighting back on behalf of the state, but as we move through the world day to day, like, it's fair to assume they're not going to follow through on things, or they're going to willfully ignore the law. And so we have to be really, really focused, whether you're the governor, you're the legislature, anyone, about getting our own house in order, because they're not coming to save us. And I think our best response to the Trump administration is to make Vermont the strongest economy we possibly can, the best place to raise a family we possibly can, to make Vermont on its own a thriving, amazing, strong place. Because that's how we fight fascism, frankly. When we're so strong, they can't come for us. Right. And we aren't there right now. The systems we have are, all the infrastructure around us is like on the precipice of collapse, frankly. And so like there's a way by turning inward and making ourselves better, like we actually are fighting the Trump administration, because I don't want to need them. I don't want to rely on J.D. Vance or, like, God forbid, in the future. So
we've touched on this a little bit, but Democrats lost a lot of support in 2024 within this state. Who have Democrats lost that you most want to bring back into the party?
My parents.
Yeah.
For different reasons, right? My dad is like, sorry, Dad. He's not going to watch this. But I talk about them all the time. But my dad is, like his father, a sort of like libertarian, conservative leaning, but also like liberal, socially liberal, because he's has this libertarian streak, sort of mishmash. He's not a Democrat and he's not a Republican, but he votes for Phil Scott and he votes for Peter Welch. And he probably voted for our current lieutenant governor. And so we need to give people like him a sense of confidence that, like, we understand what it's like to just be a working person in Vermont, how hard it is to retire, to make ends meet, to, like, find a house. They're about to retire. And it's like, what do you do when we're aging out? And then my mom, for a different reason, who's always been more liberal than my dad, but is disengaged, is like doesn't understand or see the sort of like meaning of politics or how it impacts her. And I just remember growing up one day and it's like, I knew it was election day because, you know, I was a nerd or whatever and was paying attention. And, you know, she wasn't registered to vote. And so, you know, hopefully Mom, you vote this year for your son in a primary. But, we have to give people like her the motivation and reason to get out. And we spend a lot of time, frankly, blaming voters either for voting for Phil, that they're Democrats, like how could you do that? Or for not participating or whatever, being busy. And like it's our job as a party, as candidates, to make ourselves relevant in people's lives. If we're not, that's on us and not them. And so there's a whole swath of people where that was the case in 2024. Biden didn't help. No one was particularly excited about showing up for that. But, we weren't giving them a reason to show up ourselves. And so hopefully, frankly, I hope some of these statewide races help that. I think I can help that. I'd like to help that. And we'll see. Nice.
Well, you have answered some really hard questions, and we're going to give you an easy one.
Okay.
So here on There's No Way in Creemee, we have a little tradition that we like to ask everyone, if you get the opportunity to visit one of our Creemee stands, what do you order?
Oh, my God. Maple black raspberry twist.
Nice.
In a cone.
Okay.
Chocolate sprinkles.
Sprinkles. Team sprinkles.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Chocolate sprinkles.
Not
rainbow.
Rainbow.
Gotcha.
It's been that way since I
sounds
was
like you have very strong feelings
12.
about chocolate.
Yeah. It's like rainbow's not good on the maple.
Uh-huh.
Like if it were a chocolate and vanilla twist, I'd probably go rainbow.
Yeah.
So context matters.
Yeah. Well, you're really taking the flavor profile really seriously. I do. I respect that. Yeah.
And so there's also some places that do maple strawberry twist.
Whoa.
Which is
that's a good one.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Really, really, really good. But it doesn't have the same, in some ways, it feels so almost like fancier.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't have the same like taste memory for me, where like the maple black raspberry is like my childhood and I love it. So it's like that's my go-to.
Awesome.
But there are really good ones. And did you read the Chelsea Edgar piece about the best Creemees in Vermont?
Did that come out like maybe a year ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It's the perfect description of what she's like my favorite writer in Vermont. And it was like a masterpiece. I think it should be in like the anthology of short stories for that year because it is so perfect. Anyways. Yeah, that's not awesome. Your question. But
No, you nailed it.
I feel strongly about Creemees. And like real maple in Creemees is very important. It's extremely important for the flavor profile. It's extremely important for the maple industry. Like there's some fakes out there.
Yeah.
Artificial stuff that are hijacking maple. And so just keep an eye out.
I was so proud of my kid for the first time when we went back to New York with them and there was like not real maple on the table and they scoffed.
Syrup?
They were like, this is not
real
maple syrup.
Me. Yes.
I was like, that's my kid.
Yes. And also the Creemee mix matters. So I think Burlington Bay uses Kingdom Creamery, which is, in my opinion, the best Creemee mix around. Okay. So if you want to like dive deep into how to build the best Creemee, I'm down for that.
Nice.
Well, you just got to ask people tough questions. The poor kid at the stand probably won't know exactly the sourcing of their Creemee mix, but it is an important factor in how good they are.
You've asked some tough questions.
I love that you're taking it seriously. There's a new place, Mr. Creemee, here on Pine Street. It's like really close. I don't know if you've been there. It's really good. And they have they built like a special cold room and like have their own custom mix they're really proud of.
Where is it?
Good question. It's on Pine Street. Do you remember where Myers Bagels used to be?
Yeah, back
it's
there.
in that space.
Oh, sick.
And it's gorgeous,
cool.
too. I love it. They're like my favorite place ever.
Well, like my portfolio in Senator Welch's office was agriculture for the 10 years of it included agriculture for the whole time, which is amazing.
It's a good
like
gig, right?
It's the best gig. Yeah. And so because you get to talk to normal people that aren't thinking about politics all the time, are thinking about how to milk their cows, how to pay their bills, how to make it all work. It's a tough job. They love it. It's like a lifestyle. It's amazing. It's a great window
and
into...
they're like land stewards of a little piece of Vermont.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But so I got to know a lot about dairy.
Yeah.
And how they make money and where it all goes. So I got to learn that.
Yeah.
And but then I also like under that umbrella, I carved out the like value added portfolio. So like maple, beer, cheese, wine, distilled spirits. It was the best.
Yeah, that's a good gig. Totally.
It was the best gig. So I got to try a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people making amazing stuff in Vermont. It's really great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah.
This is really
Thanks
fun.
for having me.
Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Cut.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creemee on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creemee, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.